This is Sarah, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about ancient civilizations and science fiction, particularly ancient Egypt, because that's one of my favorites. So I grew up in the 90s. I was a kid who was exposed to a lot of good and bad media. There were a lot of interesting movies that came out in that time span. Eventually to become classics. They planted seeds in my mind that would last an entire lifetime. Fast forward many years, I was eventually an art student. I took ancient civilization and art history multiple times from different teachers, and part of art history is studying ancient antiquity from all the different civilizations around the world. But Egypt was one of my favorites. Permanence. Ancient Egyptians had a grasp on the fact that things were impermanent, things were ephemeral, nothing lasted. And early on, it seemed like they decided they wanted to fight that. And they did this in a couple of different ways. Ancient Egyptian civilization spans 4,000 years. Not a lot changed throughout that time. Point being, they weren't going for progress, they were going for permanence, which is pretty remarkable when you consider just how much things change year to year in our current culture. It seems like nothing is the same in a 10-year span, let alone a 4,000-year span. First of all, you see it in the types of materials they use to create their statues and their steles and carve their writing into. They chose really hard, dense stones that would withstand being weathered over time. The other way in which they established their permanence was in their branding. Seriously, in the 4,000-year span of ancient Egyptian civilization, you can look at anything that was created, whether it was a fresco on a wall or a statue or something that was drawn on papyrus, and you recognize it as being Egyptian because it all kind of looks the same. They decided on a design standard very early on, and they stuck with it. They passed these conventions down from generation to generation and didn't deviate from them, and because of that, we have a lot of stuff that's kind of consistent, and we can learn a lot from it. So I have this really good memory of a young Sarah sitting in the back of a dark lecture hall, learning about ancient Egyptian history, and there comes a point when you learn about this very select window of time called the Amarna period. And the Amarna period is awesome because it's the only slice of ancient Egyptian history that deviated from that standard. During this time, a pharaoh came into power named Akhenaten IV, and he decided to scrap everything. The design standard, the religion, the names of the gods. In fact, he renamed Ra, their sun god, to Aten, and then renamed himself Akhenaten. The thing that people in my class noticed about the slides that were being shown of all the artwork created to depict Akhenaten is that he looked kind of strange. He had a very elongated head and kind of tubular eyes and this strange posture with his body. It was all very notable. And while there may be some medical explanation as to why he appeared this way, a lot of the people in my class were kind of like, this dude looks like an alien. It's a thing that we laughed about in passing, but I had these seeds in my mind from the movies I had seen back when I was a child. Immediately, I thought of Stargate. The primary antagonist in Stargate is an alien that flies around to developing civilizations and poses as their god so that they might worship him. Meanwhile, he exploits all the resources from the planet, while the primitive humans are more or less helping them live in luxury. And in Stargate, this predatory, leeching alien poses as the sun god Ra. And I always wondered, ever since that lecture, whether or not the person who wrote Stargate got their inspiration from the Amarna period and Pharaoh Akhenaten. Because it is pretty sus. For like 4,000 years, there's just one dude's lifespan where everything got upended. Obviously, him changing everything pissed a lot of people off, so as soon as he died, a lot of the traditions were reinstated pretty much immediately, but for that window, things changed. It's arguable whether or not that's good that things remained unchanged for so long, but it is definitely responsible for why we have so much awesome ancient Egyptian artwork preserved for us to study now, which I appreciate. But it's not the only movie that pairs antiquity and sci-fi together in a palatable way. Probably one of the most influential movies of my youth was The Fifth Element. The Fifth Element, for all of its glorious, beautiful, eccentric qualities, starts in Egypt with a little archaeologist studying hieroglyphics in a temple that he's hoping will unlock the secrets of the universe. That first scene is so unique. After I saw it, I was completely drawn into the movie, and it kind of kidnapped my heart and has held on to it ever since.
It's really amazing.
And I wish that there were more movies that were science fiction, but in that particular way. Like antiquity punk, ancient civ punk, I don't know. So this influenced me to buy one of the minis that I purchased along with my Devils, but I didn't mention it in my previous video. I bought a little Anubis mech, because other than our Broken Worlds campaign, I kind of really want to make a diorama thing, I guess? Presumably people who do tabletop gaming sometimes will create the entire dungeon that the campaign is supposed to happen within, and they move their minis around inside of it. Fact of the matter is that there are all these interesting little prop things that exist out there in the wild, and you can buy them. And this gave me the idea to create a little setting just to kind of tickle my own brain of a mashup that includes all of the science fictional hoo-ha that are in all of the movies that I love. The cyborg mechs from Stargate are the aliens from The Fifth Element, or the mummified, reanimated guards from The Mummy. And they'll just kind of chill with Poirot in the desert, Poirot in his little tan suit, the little pear pharaoh. So this is just a statement of where my head is at right now. Plus I wanted to share that tiny little shred of ancient history trivia, because it fascinates me and it's one of my favorite little nuggets. So yeah, until my next video, keep making awesome stuff out there, and thank you for watching. You gotta put on your sand-colored suit and sit on the top of the dune and sip Moroccan mint tea. That's what you do.